Kentucky, this is Mary Jo Perino. Tonight, Lexington protests results in arrests and an emotional speech from the police chief. We'll also talk about the return plans on Kentucky campuses and hear from political contributor Joe Sonka. All that and more is next on Hey Kentucky. Welcome into Hey Kentucky this Monday, along with LEX 18 Sports Director Keith Farmer. I hope you had a great weekend, Keith.
Great weekend. Just upset you brought me back indoors because it is beautiful outside.
Yeah, I know. Like duty calls. I'm so sorry, Keith. This is a half-hour show. You'll be back out in no time. All right. Emotions ran high over the weekend as protests continued in Lexington. Demonstrations on Saturday night led to some arrests. It happened after marchers went inside barricades positioned in front of Lexington Police Headquarters to stage a die-in for 8 minutes and 46 seconds in honor of George Floyd. Police hauled off 20 people after they refused to leave.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all because look at our justice system. It's broken. So as long as it's broken and remains broken, stuff like this is gonna happen. They're gonna come out with guns. They're gonna come out, with the barricade up on public property.
Last night, there was a physical altercation between some protesters and other people outside of the Paddock Bar on South Limestone, but police say there were no charges. In response to the protesters' demands, city leaders held a meeting today and discussed the possibility of ending no-knock police warrants and making the disciplinary process more transparent. And Keith, I believe those are two of the main things that people are looking for. Get rid of no-knock warrants and figure out a way for the police to better be policed.
Yeah, and I think that's a good sign that the protests are working, those that are in power are listening, and now it's a chance to talk about it and maybe do less of the harsh protest and just, start talking and let's get some things done.
Absolutely. Well, there were some tensions on Saturday morning as well. A march from the Lexington Police Department to Southland Christian Church was interrupted by a wave of protesters when they blocked Police Chief Lawrence Weathers from walking to the church for a conversation centered around race and reconciliations. Of the interaction, Weathers said, quote, "The protesters were aggressively trying to block me at every turn," end quote. He ended up driving the rest of the way to the forum where the chief had strong words for protesters who walked to the front of the stage and interrupted him and the other speakers.
Listen, and I'm black too, and I know that ain't popular for you all to believe, but I'm gonna tell you, I'm black and I'm proud. And I understand why y'all up here standing here not letting me speak. I understand because as a black man, I've had to be quiet about some things. And I'm not quiet now because I'm going to tell you, this is our time. And I'm going to answer this question. It is happening now because it is God's will. It is God's will that this is happening now. And I'm not going to pass it by. You can yell at me, you can ask me to apologize, but I'm going to keep the course, and I'm going to keep true, and I'm going to fight for what's right. I'm tired of people getting killed for no reason.
Keith, this particular instance hit me harder than almost anything else over the last couple of weeks because we know Chief Weathers is a soft-spoken guy, but his emotion was raw. He is hurting like other people. He just wears a uniform.
Yeah, and even with him wearing the uniform at that time, you didn't see it because of his reaction to it. And I thought it was unfortunate that he was held up like he was to get to this event and for them to stand in front and yell while he and others were trying to talk, because that's what we've been trying to do, is get a conversation started, and they were doing that at this event.
Yeah, he was invited there, and then some people didn't want to see him walk or speak. But kudos to Chief Weathers. What an amazing feeling I got from watching that. All right, it was also a tense scene in a town just west of Louisville Friday. Hundreds of people gathered in Brandenburg with some rifles, wearing military-style fatigues, say they were there to try to protect a Confederate monument from protesters. Some residents had expressed concerns that demonstrators might vandalize or even tear down the monument, but counter-protesters blocked any access to the site. The following evening, work crews completed the removal of the Jefferson Davis statue from the Capitol Rotunda in Frankfort, sending it on its way to his birthplace in western Kentucky. Keith, I'm just surprised by how many statues we have made about Confederate soldiers.
When it was just like a blip in history, right? And was the losing side, the one that we all are against. I mean, I'd like to believe anyway. And so, yeah, it boggles my mind that these were even put up in the first place and that they still stand today.
I know, it is wild to me. It's wild. All right, as Kentucky grapples with issues of race, the headlines have caught the attention of some high-profile names. Beyonce is calling for the prosecution of the Louisville officers involved in the death of Breonna Taylor. The pop star made a direct appeal in the form of a letter to Attorney General Daniel Cameron. And NBA star Ja Morant is asking Callaway County to remove a statue of Robert E. Lee from the courthouse square. The former Murray State point guard says the campus felt like a second home during his time there, and he finds it disturbing and oppressive to know the city still honors a Confederate war general. Keith, we had just mentioned that. But what do you make of Beyonce writing Daniel Cameron?
Yeah, one that he'll save, I'm sure, but at the same time, it's just, the people of clout that need to speak up. We've seen some people getting on to celebrities for not speaking up and saying more, and so now we see a person like Beyonce that is definitely doing that and putting her money where her mouth is. And
pen to paper. That is a good way that if you don't want to be out on the front lines protesting, write letters, write your legislators, write people in power and let them know your thoughts. All right, turning to politics. Democrats in Kentucky's U.S. Senate race have been trading jabs on social media. Last week, Amy McGrath tweeted at Charles Booker, "Congratulations, Charles, on your fundraising. Now you will have the resources to actually provide health insurance to your staff and pay your interns $15 an hour like we do." Booker fired back, "I understand, Amy. You're getting nervous about our campaign. But no, people will never forget you are against guaranteeing health care as a human right and you oppose raising the minimum wage to $15. Your tweet won't hit the way your consultants think. See you on June 23rd. Now, McGrath has long been considered the favorite in the primary race, having outspent her opponents combined by nearly 30-1 margin through early June. But Booker has made a late charge ahead of next Tuesday's election. And Keith, the mere fact that Amy McGrath tweeted that shows that she is concerned about Charles Booker's campaign.
I mean, and in some ways, I didn't think it sounded like her, but at the same time, it came from her account. So I think it had to have been her at least approving it. And it shows how she's maybe a little bit nervous with the push that Booker is making here towards Election Day.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if she was truly the front runner, I don't know that would have bothered her quite so much. All right, this week, we expect to learn the University of Kentucky's plan for bringing students back in the fall. Last week, UK leaders did confirm that their plan calls for returning students to campus in August. EKU has said in-person classes will begin August 17th and end the Wednesday prior to Thanksgiving. Western Kentucky has unveiled a similar plan. Meanwhile, WKU has announced plans to move its home opening football game against UT Chattanooga in Bowling Green to Thursday, September 3rd. That's to avoid going up against the rescheduled Kentucky Derby set for that Saturday. We're waiting to see if other in-state schools will follow suit. Keith, I haven't heard any mention of the UK football team doing that, but glad to see everyone's planning at least on coming back to campus in a couple months.
Yeah, I mean, it's wonderful news to hear, and I can't wait to see exactly what the plan is. I do love that most of them are trying to get out for that Wednesday before Thanksgiving, just, giving them a chance to get out before there could be more, flu-like symptoms coming on in the winter months.
Sure. All right, now on Hey Kentucky, in case you missed it, a review of recent headlines. The lawsuit involving next week's primary election is growing. Amy McGrath's campaign and Louisville Metro Councilwoman Keisha Dorsey have joined the class action suit, which demands that there be more than one in-person voting location in the Commonwealth's most populous counties. Meanwhile, folks in Louisville got their first chance to cast their ballot in person today. Registered voters can go to the south wing of the Kentucky Expo Center through next Tuesday. Up next on Hey Kentucky, we'll check in with a regular political contributor, Joe Sonka of the Louisville Courier-Journal. Will share his thoughts on this final stretch run before the primary. Stay with us.